Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for September 2nd through 5th, 2022. Well, we've moved into the month of September. We're feeling some shifting energies, namely heading into retrograde season. We've got all of our larger planets in retrograde, and now Mercury in Libra, preparing to turn retrograde on the 10th. So that's next weekend, but we're already feeling this because of our bigger planets all in retrograde. And it's bringing, we also have a whole bunch of square energies bringing tension. And so it's quite a quandary of energies, especially for SuperNova Souls, with Mars and Gemini. So Mars in Gemini wants to move and express. It's air and fire. It's like, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's speak our truth. But then with this retrograde energy and these squares, it's like, oh, no, you don't. Oh, you thought you were getting somewhere. Oh, sorry. And it's a feeling of being maybe hogtied in a holding pattern. So for this last week, we've been feeling Mars and square to the sun, and this is coming off now. But it's really, really important energetically why we've been, just important information for right now, because Mars and Gemini at the very beginning degrees wanting to move and express, but in square to the sun in Virgo. And so the sun is who are we? It's our identity, how we see ourselves. And then Mars is our action warrior. So our action warrior wants to express more of the truth of who we are. Come on, let's go. And then in square to the sun, it's that feeling of like an energy of blocking a restriction. Now, because the sun is in Virgo and Mars is in Gemini, these are mutable signs. This is bringing forward a feeling that we've been grappling with from all of the mutable squares over the last few years, as the nodes were in mutable signs during this whole crazy last 2.5 years of astrology and situations in our world. And this feeling of being so lost and not knowing who we are and how to move forward. And so just know that this is a bloom. The square of the sun and Mars brought a bloom of this energy and frustration, because what's happened this year is that we had Venus, Jupiter is in Aries. Jupiter moving over into Aries brought an energy of possibility of like, oh, I can do this. I'm gonna claim back my life. It's the only thing that matters. I'm going to really live. I'm going to really do it. I'm going to be the dream. I'm going to make it happen. And yet now that Jupiter's retrograde and will head back into Pisces, it's kind of this deflated feeling of, I thought, I know it's so huge for SuperNova Souls, but it's like this feeling of thinking you're getting somewhere and then having it all taken away from you. And it's been like that for the last few years, maybe few decades, few lifetimes, but we're having a bloom of this. And so it's important to kind of understand all these dynamics so you can support yourself through this, because it's this feeling of like a message coming through for SuperNova Souls. Like, it's time for you to do what you came here to do. What are you doing? And then it's like, I don't know who I am or where I'm going or what I'm doing. So how am I supposed to do that? And that's where this retrograde season is like kind of a perfect timing for this. And we have to keep this bigger picture in perspective and not get lost in these feelings of going backwards and being stuck in the wrong timeline and never getting anywhere. Because everything in the astrology is speaking to a massive change and adjustment that we need to make in order to vibrate at that new, more appropriate timeline. And it's like being laid out for us, because Jupiter moved over into Aries this spring, made it to 8 degrees, and has turned retrograde, is now back to 6 degrees. And so Jupiter will then, at the end of October, just in time for Halloween, move back into Pisces. And it's just going to be like a dip into this Piscean age energy, that we thought we were done with. But at the same time as Scorpio season, South Node in Scorpio, and massive activation with Uranus being opposite that South Node and conjunct the North Node. This for the last few months. And so it's just really important to see this bigger picture of this time that we're in, and that Jupiter will then turn direct, and in October, or Jupiter will turn direct in November, and then head back into Aries on December 21st. So that is a marker of like where the energy is really powerful for us to land and own and be ready to make a huge leap into that more appropriate timeline. This ideal Christ consciousness timeline, because Jupiter, that 0 degrees Aries, is where the greater conjunctions at the time of the birth of Jesus and the whole last shift of ages, we have to remember this reflection that we're at a shift of ages. And so it's reflecting back to the last shift of ages. And most supernova souls, if you're here right now, you are also here on the planet witnessing the last shift of ages. And we're putting the puzzle pieces together. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to completely undo the puzzle to get it right, is what it feels like going down to baseline. And this is the feeling that at this push to do what we're here to do, but yet everything in the old way that we've been trying to move and the reality around us seems to be fraying at the seams. And so it's like, how do you manifest and work with energies that are disintegrating? We have to understand and remember that the same thing is happening to us. We're disintegrating our false parts of ourselves, our ego identity constructs, and that's a big energy with the Sun square Mars that we've been feeling. Coming face to face, especially with this Black Moon Lilith square Chiron, the Chiron wounds in Aries, wounds around where we failed and we don't deserve life itself. We don't, a feeling of not deserving even to exist. How many supernova souls feel this way? It's been so difficult just to survive. Why is it so hard for you? Other people can just seem to live their life. And this is this energy, the story around permission to exist, because why? Why would you have issues around permission to exist on Earth? Especially when you know that you have these treasures within you and you have this experience and you have this love and you have this devotion. So it can only be that, this issues around whether or not you can be on the Earth and be supported in your life force and your power has to do with how powerful you are. And I guess this is the quintessential issue that we're grappling with as we overcome all stories about and energies that are working against us. But wow, are we feeling that right now? So let's talk it through. On the one hand, it's really important right now to acknowledge how you feel and be present with this deep and profound excavation that's happening with the Black Moon Lilith square Chiron. But at the same time, be really gentle and compassionate with yourself, and know that you're going to we're having an opportunity to excavate our treasures. This is the Uranus North Node energy, from our deep internal wealth and wisdom. But it's hiding under this darkness and the shame and these distortions that are coming up with a Black Moon Lilith square Chiron. It's like, yeah, we've done so much shadow work, but this is the compensated piece that you compensated down to this big, but it's a monster. And you have been allowing it to have all your power as you run from this deep, dark place. And this astrology is saying, all right, no more running. And that shit's being exposed and excavated, and it's right in the middle of your path forward. You don't know where you're going or what you're doing, but that's in the way. So we've got to be present, and we've got to there's a lot of forgiveness being asked for ourselves and others as we go to these places of these old dark stories that we've compensated down so far. Now, the Black Moon Lilith square Chiron, this is the main energy we're feeling right now, and it's just intense. And with the retrograde, and Mercury hasn't even turned retrograde. We still have a whole week until Mercury turns retrograde, but gosh, we're feeling it. And that means the whole next 6 weeks, we're going to be in this energy. And yet the big crux of this Black Moon Lilith square Chiron is exact right now, and it'll be exact through the 5th. So, but the effect of that Black Moon Lilith square Chiron will go through the equinox. So this is the chapter we're looking at. There's a big shift of energy at the equinox. We'll still be in retrograde, but we'll be coming out of these influences that we're currently feeling right now. So there is a very powerful trajectory leading up to the equinox, and it starts with Mercury turning retrograde on the 10th. And of course, we got this Black Moon Lilith square Chiron exact. Then on the 10th is when Mercury turns retrograde. And that's also the Pisces full moon. A Pisces full moon happening at 17 degrees Pisces. And so that's a powerful energy there, because we're looking at Jupiter dipping back into Pisces, revisiting the dark shadows, because I'm telling you what, this recess of nasty garbage in your subconscious that you're dealing with that's in your way forward has to do with Piscean age and what you experience in persecution at that time. And so that's very powerful. And it's kind of like that Pisces full moon shedding a light on this dynamic and a foreshadowing of that Jupiter dipping back into the end degrees of Pisces. That's going to be for the month of, starting at Halloween and the month of November and December to the 21st, when, like I was saying, Jupiter goes back into Aries there. So, just, I guess, getting the bigger picture of this next couple of months is really important, to not get lost in the weeds right now, and know that it's not a time to push forward. It's not a time to battle. It's a time to retreat. It's a time to hold back your energy and take care of yourself, and that radical self-care, which feels selfish to SuperNova Souls, but it's so important we learn how to do this right now. So if that's the one thing you learn through this Black Moon Lilith square, to just honor and take care of yourself as the vulnerable. The reason why this is so intense is because, and why this feeling so compensated, and why you even have the feeling in the first place, is simply because you are who you are as an advanced soul. As an advanced soul, the symptoms of being an advanced soul, what happens to you as you go through lots of experiences, is that you become more and more empathic, and you feel what other people feel, and you're sensitive in your senses and awareness, and so that's the only reason why this nastiness is stuck in your psyche, because it's the only way you could compensate and get through the Piscean age, right? And now we got to clean that shit up. Don't want to go into those stories, but there's something in those stories that can set you free. And what's happening, what's an opportunity here, is a surrender, this Mars square, the sun, and total confusion about who you are, and yet absolute pressure to move forward. And it's like coming to this place of sometimes life beats you up so hard that you can't even begin to try to have an agenda or a plan, because nothing works. It's so not fun. And I know so many SuperNova Souls have been here. And remember, you're not alone. We're all going through this together. They want us to feel alone. As long as we are alone, we have no reflection back on the truth of our vision and our dream. And then it's like it doesn't exist. And then it's like you don't exist. What a perfect way to keep you small, powerless, and quarantined. But we're figuring this out, and we're working it. We're healing it. We're coming back together. But there's also another thing. So this esoteric loneliness is coming up so huge, of this deep, dark, this is part of the feeling that we've been running through, and so activated with the Chiron and Aries. But we also have to remember that there's a video I did a couple years ago called Esoteric Loneliness, and it speaks to this. And one of the concepts that came through was a story of what Edgar Cayce, and he would put himself into self-hypnosis, basically go to sleep and do his readings that way. And he described this sensation experience he wasn't always conscious of, but he'd have to go through this dark tunnel where souls and darkness and the lower astral plane like grabbing at him in order to get to that place where he can access this information. Now, metaphorically, this is where we're at right now. We have to go through the tunnel of the spiritual ascension process where you're all alone. It feels like you're all alone. And, but that intense esoteric loneliness is actually evidence that you're making the journey. And it's a place along the way. And this is exactly the message. It's like, yeah, we got to go into the darkest places of our compensated psyche with this Black Moon Lilith Chiron. No more of this hidden, garbage that can erupt in our life and keep us in the same old patterns. And when we face and are present and step through these feelings, I mean, how many people have regular people who maybe aren't so aware or awake, feel these feelings and they go right to the doctor and they get antidepressants? How many people out there? And then how many people are suppressed in their spiritual? See, these feelings are necessary for your spiritual growth. And to shed and to clear and to heal. And then you as a sensitive soul that's being present and aware, are you feeling all that suppressed shit of the people around you that don't want to face it? And then they're like, what's your problem? You're so emotional and so sensitive. I mean, this is a core energy coming up as we look at Black Moon Lilith and Cancer and heal our relationship to the mother, to source, where we don't feel connected and loved. And we have to look at the feminine and the archetypes of the feminine. And one of these is that, I've been thinking a lot about this, like we have this evidence and research and we can talk about it and we can feel into this, like how there's strength and vulnerability, right? From Brené Brown's research, it's like happy people allow themselves to be more vulnerable. They take chances. They open their heart to love. They do this. It's like, and so that's telling us, and in a way, that's, to me, it's like, oh, that's feminine strength. When you can be in your authenticity, and you don't care about what other people think, that, and you can feel and express your emotions. But we've been taught that the strong feminine is a put together feminine, and how in a family with a strong matriarchal influence and, say that motherly energy, it goes down, gets sick herself, and she's taking care of everybody else. And then she goes sick. And the whole thing, the whole household and the whole structure and the masculine all gets just totally lost because that's the one who's supposed to hold it together and be strong. So the healing of the feminine within us requires this vulnerability and going to the dark, scary places and facing it and admitting it and talking about it and cleansing it and healing it. Because these feelings are are keeping us in the old stories, the old personality constructs, the dark ages. So we got to revisit the dark ages a little bit. But what it's really about, we've got to keep this bigger picture. The whole last couple of months, Uranus North Node, Uranus opposite the South Node, Uranus the awakener, bringing higher frequency vibrations into the sign of Taurus, the body, the earth. And also Taurus is about our self-worth for our gifts and treasures. And so we have to remember that this time is actually about excavating what's underneath the darkness, why we were persecuted and beaten down and harassed, in the first place. And claim that back and live it and own it, So that's a really powerful energy. And we could kind of see this Virgo time and this time into the Black Moon Lilith Chiron square as this excavation and keeping our eye on the prize of what's underneath the shadow and the darkness, and coming into this beautiful surrender to this higher wisdom within us that must know the way forward and get our ego out of the way so we can stop going in circles. Now, there's a powerful energy, with this Mercury retrograde. And the bigger planets, when they're retrograde, we don't feel them so much. We feel it when they move, and around the time when they move direct and retrograde. But then when Mercury's retrograde, then we feel the other planets retrograde, and that's why it feels just like a total standstill. And this is why it's so helpful to understand astrology and to kind of be like, oh, that's just the energy right now. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to get all bent out of shape. It's not a time to move forward or push on any level. It's a time for the inner work. And Mercury in Libra is about relationships. And so Mercury at the very beginning degrees of Libra, it's about an idealized love. But that idealized love has often compromised our personal sovereignty, especially as SuperNova Souls, where we had to turn down our light, let go of our spiritual vision, our path, our purpose, our mission, in order to make the people around us happy and feel comfortable. So this is a powerful, because we talked about Mercury retrograde in Libra, retrograding back into Virgo, and then back into Libra. So the Virgo-Libra cusp, very powerful. And when it's in Virgo, it'll be trining up with Pluto. We've already had the first one of those. And then when it's in Libra, it'll be opposing Jupiter in Aries. So this is intense because it's like this idealized love and relationship versus this incredible desire for freedom and autonomy. So what it's bringing up is contractual arrangements in relationships that have been keeping us from fully living our path to the point that we don't even know our path. But also for SuperNova Souls, this feeling of disconnection, this feeling of being utterly alone and lost and nobody to talk to reflect back your vision and your reality and your truth. And so the opposition is also bringing forward where SuperNova Souls, of course, it's those control-based relationships that we've been fighting against to be able to have permission to be who we really are and do what we want to do here. But then there's also this dynamic energy of where we haven't been able to receive support, which is like, yeah, I'm SuperNova Souls. We're generally not that good at receiving. I mean, so good at giving, right? And we know that this is imbalance. We know it's spiritual ego on some level, but it's from being battered up and beaten down. And it's like this thing is like, oh yeah, no, I'm not that great at receiving. I don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like or real love because it's all been control-based. Now I'm totally confused, but I know that I need support and I want to open my heart, And so it's like, what's in the way of receiving that support through relationship? And I can hear SuperNova Souls being like, yeah, you try to trust after a severe narcissistic abuse, And most of us as SuperNova Souls have experienced some sort of abandonment and abuse in our early childhood. That's just a story we're playing out. Again, it's like a mini version of these Piscean age traps. And so, wow, so much is on the table. And does this mean our deep, dark feeling of not feeling loved and connected to the mother, and like we can exist here on the earth safely and supported to do our work? That's all rolled up in these relationship contracts and fear of opening our heart. And, SuperNova Souls, when you've been so burned, then it's hard. Then you're like, how can I trust anybody? Well, this is the next chapter that lies ahead. And I know it feels like we're very far away from this right now, but we're actually getting a lot closer because a lot of these deep, dark energies that we're clearing have to do with why we haven't been able to have supportive, empowered relationships. Part of the reason is because we haven't had any other SuperNova Souls around us. We've been in our own league in a quarantine very deliberately. And we agreed to this, right? But it's that feeling of like, well, here I am trying to be in the energy of possibility and what we could do here and solutions and, just all of this, the vision of a better world. And then not one person around you can even vibrate at all at that frequency, And then we talked about this. This is this invisibility where it's like, no, but that's an energy like we made ourselves invisible after we were persecuted. So we've got to climb our way out of this. And it's frustrating because we thought we did. And this Black Moon Lilith square Chiron is just like down to the nitty gritty. But that nitty gritty, that's that irritation, the sand, the one piece of sand that got irritated and irritated and irritated, that compensated place, now turning into a pearl. This beautiful innate wisdom and strength. I know it feels so far away from where you are now, but it's like you're closer than you've ever been. And so maybe it's like this whole energy of an ego death of not surrender to the forces that are trying to control us, but surrender to the higher wisdom within us and say, okay, I'm stopping trying to, my little brain and my little ego, be in charge here. But I only want to work with the highest, most true, most alignment. And guess what's required for that? We got to clean up these deep places in our psyche that are keeping us from being able to feel worthy to exist and receive the support that life has to offer. Supernova Soul, you have so much inside of you to bring forward. And it's so beautiful, and it's so much brighter and bigger and more beautiful than any of these old stories and lies that we've been living to stay safe, So really intense energies. So let's stick together. Let's stay connected, and keep an eye out for the Pisces full moon. We'll do an activation. That's the Pisces full moon is early Saturday morning in Mountain Time. So the activation will be sometime in the afternoon on Friday, September 9th, right about when Mercury turns retrograde. And just as we're coming off of the most intense part of this Black Moon Lilith square Chiron. So that'll be the next marker. So keep in touch. I look forward to seeing you then on the activation or the next update. And just know, keep in that bigger picture that you're being prepared for a big leap forward when the energy returns. It is returning, nothing can stop it. And that this deep excavation is taking you to the pearls. And I just see this incredible emotional strength that I know you're not feeling right now, but it's just like a resolve and a strength that is going to give you an ability to hold a balance for the people around you, as they have their turn. We've had our ego death, and then they're going to have their ego death. And you are going to be a pillar of strength and deep confidence and wholeness, and you're going to feel a lot better. So let's hold hands and face this down together, and know that it's not a time to battle or push forward. It's a time to retreat and to kind of count your blessings, have gratitude and appreciation and love. But there's an energy here of like the art of war, where the art of war, when you want, one of the concepts of it is like appear weak when you're strong, appear strong when you're weak. And maybe that's part of the strength of the vulnerability, and knowing that in your retreat and in your inward time and in your getting off the battlefield, you're finding that inner strength, and you're actually stronger than you ever. You might feel weaker, but you're actually stronger than you've ever been. And it's going to be so beautiful to put these pieces of you back together and excavate those treasures and pearls and start to begin to share those with the world and your Supernova Soul tribe, who can't wait to embrace you as we move forward into more permission to come together and celebrate our autonomous life force. This is why so much forces have interfered in our own fears and programming and blocks and contracts, where we said, I can't be with my tribe because I'll put them in danger. So you yourself said, nope, I don't get that, right? So we got to undo all this stuff. But think about the power of it. Right? When you're alone and you're trying to be in the vision and you're trying to co-create and you're trying to love and you're trying to see bigger possibilities, and then it's just like bouncing off the walls of your own straitjacket. And then coming together with just one or two, two or more supernova souls, they've been working on the same vision and you feel all alone in it and nobody can relate, And then when you come together, what it does is it makes it real. This is why they don't want us connecting right now, because then we hold a different reality and then other people can see it. Wait a minute. It doesn't have to be this way. And it's so incredibly powerful. And it's kind of like, oh, it's elusive. I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm never going to have my community. I know it feels that way right now, but you're closer than you've ever been. And the power of that potential is beyond what we can really understand and imagine. So that understanding could be really helpful. And we're dealing with this exile place with Chiron and Aries so activated. But you know what? One other thing I wanted to mention is that, so the Chiron, Black Moon Lilith square Chiron is so intense for this next week. And peaking out, it's exact now, like I said, to the 5th. But right now, it's at 15 degrees. Black Moon Lilith's at 15, Chiron's at 15, and the North Node is at 15 degrees. So this means that Black Moon Lilith in Cancer is in a trine to the South Node in Scorpio and in sextile to the North Node in Taurus. So this is really magical. So we got this intense square of like going to the nitty-gritty of what's in the way of us claiming back our life and freedom and autonomy and kind of facing those prison bars. And then, but there's just this energy of solution and support, and the water trine of Black Moon Lilith in Cancer in trine to the South Node, and then throw that Pisces full moon into it, and we'll have a grand water trine energy. And so this is like giving us the strength, that emotional strength to face the shadows and this deep recessed subconscious that we've been running from. So there's support for this. And then Black Moon Lilith and sextile to the North Node, it's like, yeah, this is everything that's been keeping you from moving forward. And so it's like, I guess we're dealing with the deepest places where all the old stories, all the blocking energies, all the karmic shit, it's like it's been able to take root in our psyche because of this place. And now we're cleaning house. And that's definitely the energy of Virgo Sun. And go ahead and use that to your advantage, a clean house on multiple levels, and get organized and get rid of just, on all, our psychic level and physical level, emotional level. And keep it simple, stupid. And keep loving yourself through this. It takes an incredible amount of internal strength to go through this tunnel of darkness and to know that there's light on the other side. But that's what you're here for. And the strength that you have inside of you to do this, and how you even got here in the first place, you are fully prepared. You know exactly what to do. And we're in it together. So just know that the excavation is going to be worth it. And let's stay in touch. I look forward to seeing you soon, maybe at that Pisces full moon activation, the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.